Hello. Welcome to the Global Dynasty YouTube channel. Real Housewives of New Jersey, Season 13, Episode 4. You guys already know. We have a lot to unpack, so let's get into it. So the opening scene starts out with Louis telling Teresa about the boys' night. And of course, he goes into detail about the heated moment with Joe Gorga. And Teresa is very apologetic because she feels that she doesn't understand the heat that Joe is giving Louis, especially when Louis' side of the family treats her so well and she doesn't have to go through that issue with them. There's no drama. So I understand why she is apologetic in that situation. And the scene transitions to the Gorgas basically working on their dream home, but you know how that goes. And because let's be honest, the Gorgas moved so much and now they're building another home. This is not the first home that they built, so it's nothing to rave about. It's like, oh, okay, let's recycle this storyline again. And that's exactly what they're doing. But Melissa decides to ask Joe about guys' night and what happened. And Joe is so dramatic, per usual. And he tells Melissa about Louis getting upset about her statement on the podcast. And so at this point, Melissa doesn't understand why Louis is upset when he wasn't even in the picture then. And this is one thing I want them all to understand, that as Teresa's fiance, soon-to-be husband in this situation, because they weren't married while they were filming, I don't see anything wrong with that man standing behind his wife on her decisions. It isn't anything negative, but you have to also remember, Teresa doesn't have anybody. They don't have any family. She has no one. So if she wants to lean on him for an ear to listen to or advice in a situation with her brother, I don't see anything wrong with that. You see how vocal Melissa is? Like, let's not do that when she runs her mouth whenever she wants and voices her opinion about Teresa's life continuously. So then Joe continues the story about guys' night, and then he lets Melissa know that he let Louis have it as far as the conversation about the in-laws not being invited. And honestly, I really want the Gorgas to go. This needs to be their last season because they do not have a storyline outside of Teresa, which is the reason why they're making this big deal about the in-laws not being invited. Nono, which is Teresa and Joe's father, had a relationship with the in-laws. Teresa did not. It's as simple as that. Let's just, hypothetically speaking, let's say that Teresa had a set number of guests that she had to have at her wedding. I don't think that she needs to plan around Joe and Melissa's life and, let me see if they want me to invite Melissa's people. Like, let's be honest. Y'all remember on the earlier seasons, especially season 3, when Melissa and Joe got introduced to us, Melissa's family hated Teresa, and that was clear to see. Her sister even yelled out that Teresa was invited to the christening of her nephew on a technicality. But now y'all want to cry about them not being at the wedding. Goodbye. I'm not trying to hear that. And if you don't remember, go ahead and it's season 3, episode 1 to jog your memory. Then Joe has the nerve to say that ever since he met Louis, he doesn't feel comfortable. And then Melissa chimes in and says, well, she has his family. She doesn't need you now. And that's the problem right there that the viewers don't see. When Melissa puts that stuff in Joe's ear and he goes with it. So whenever a wife says, yeah, the wife can control her husband, she can put stuff in his ear, that's exactly what Melissa does. And I see it, and I don't understand why no one else sees it. I'm pretty sure some other viewers see it too, but no one speaks on it. So, of course, Louis, being the stand-up guy that he is, he suggests that Teresa make peace with her brother. Call him. And so Teresa calls him and they're talking and she's asking him, so what's up? What is the issue? And then Joe gets all quiet. No, I don't have no issue. I don't want it to be an issue. Finito, it's finished. We have nothing to discuss. But you was just telling your wife how upset you were about this whole situation. But now when Teresa calls you, you don't have anything to say. And that's the problem right there. I don't want to go back on it. We don't need to discuss it. And I think that's a problem that the both siblings have. Is I don't want to talk about it because Louis had to push Teresa. I'm not going to be the one to play like I'm just playing Teresa's side, even though this is Trey's show and we all know it. But I have to call her out when she is wrong too. And she has her moments with her brother. And I think in that moment, that's why I say I can see the growth. Like Teresa didn't want to call her brother, but she knew it's just the right thing to do. So let me call him. But for Joe to sit there and say nothing, it's only because they don't have anything else to talk about and they want to stretch this problem out throughout the whole season. So I peep your game, Gordon. The next scene shows Dolores with her mother and little Frankie, and it's good to see that Dolores' mother is doing well as far as her health. I know in previous seasons we were able to see her journey and the process that she had to go through with getting heart surgery. So she's doing well, and they're all discussing Paul. He is the subject of discussion with everyone nowadays. And I think that this discussion is pretty interesting because little Frankie, he points out that the relationship that Frank and Paul have is in no comparison to Dolores' ex-boyfriend, David, the doctor. And for those of you that don't remember, Frank moved in with that man. Frank moved in with Dolores' ex-boyfriend. Like, it was such a weird situation. And I think the family just at this point needs to get on board. And her mother agrees that Paul is it Paulie or Paul? I'm gonna just say Paulie to be on the safe side. Paulie is the man that Dolores is seeing at this point in time. So if he feels uncomfortable with Frank just walking in the house, there should be no problem with that. Frank is just at this point, he's gonna have to get on board or get lost. So here's the thing with Jennifer. I enjoy her a lot in a group of girls because she's very quick wit. She has the comeback for days, and she can handle herself in any argument with any of the ladies. But when it comes to her husband, Jennifer has a very controlling attitude. She often asks Bill his opinion on situations, and when he goes to give her his honest opinion, she doesn't like it because it doesn't benefit her. It's not in the defense of her. And she feels like he's not on her side and he doesn't support her because of that. And what I want to say is there's a difference. If you want a yes man, then just say that. But if you want someone that's going to be real with you and stand by you, you have to value their opinion even if you don't agree with it because you're asking for it. So I don't understand why she gets so frustrated with him when it comes to that situation. This will be the second time because on the last episode, it was the same situation. He was trying to get her to come on, let's go, let's leave the house. And she's like, don't tell me to shush. But it's just like, he's trying to get you to have some composure about yourself. It's in the best benefit of you in that situation, but you don't accept it because that's not what you want. And they also have a discussion about their children. And Jennifer is going to buy her son a party bus for prom, which is an event. It's a special occasion, so I don't see anything wrong with that. But Bill kind of gives her the stiff face because he thinks that she spoils the children. And she says that she's spoiling the children based on the year that they had last year because they found out the information about their father having infidelity on their mother. And she says basically it's his fault, which the situation would have never happened if he would have never cheated. So I get where she is saying it's her fault. I think that this should have been disclosed to the children well before they started taping for this show completely. Because the way these housewives are, if she really did her homework and watched the housewives, she would know. Certain housewives do their due diligence and they look you up. They check the records. Don't let this be Married to Medicine. Those girls are taking background checks out on you. So it's not uncommon for that to happen, which is the reason why she should have prepped her children. And I understand that they had a rough year, but that could have been prevented if she would have just told them ahead of filming. I'll be the first to say, I think there are too many ladies on this season in general, because as soon as it cut to the scene with both Rachel and Jennifer, I instantly was just like, I don't remember their names. I had to Google who they were. I did. And it's the 4th episode. I don't know, they just don't stick. Now, Danielle, the other newbie, I know who she is with the blonde hair, but these two, not so much. So they have a scene where they're out and they're talking, and Rachel, she decides to bring up a conversation between her and Jennifer, and she says that Jennifer was bad mouthing Dolores. And so Jennifer takes it upon herself and she's like, oh, really? Well, she called me and she was bad mouthing Margaret. So at this point, I know that there's going to be some smoke with Jennifer, Aiden. And that's another thing. Too many people have the same names. That's hard to keep up with. So there's a scene that I found pretty interesting, and it's when Margaret and Dolores are together inside of a store and they decide to call Melissa and check up on her because for some reason Margaret feels strongly about Melissa's in-laws not being invited to Teresa's wedding. In my opinion, I don't understand Margaret or her logic behind things. I think she's very messy, and a lot of people overlook that trait about her. The reason why I think she's very messy is because she just recently made up with Teresa. Why is she inserting herself in business that does not concern her? This is between Melissa and Teresa, and I think when it comes to the topic, she should just be like Dolores and, say when time tells, or be positive, or don't say anything at all. But for you to insert yourself and say how you feel and, oh, I think the in-laws should go too. Well, I think it's not any of your business, Margaret. So everyone is getting ready for Teresa's love bubble party except Joe. Joe Gorga has decided that he isn't going to go to the party because he doesn't want to. And at this point, if he wants to reconcile with his sister, it's on him. She's extended the olive branch to invite him continuously, time after time, and it's always no, I'm not ready. I don't want to come. I can't come. I would just shrug him off if I were her at this point because I don't have time to keep kissing your behind. So it's time for Teresa's love bubble party, and everybody shows up on time except Melissa. She shows up late, not fashionably, and everyone notices that Joe Gorga isn't with her, and I think everyone at this point knows what that means and knows where their situation lies. And to find out that Teresa also told Melissa to bring her nephews and her niece, and she came in empty-handed when she knows that the children haven't seen each other, that also speaks volumes. We all know that those children are really close and they have a close bond, and despite what's going on with the parents, that shouldn't have anything to do with the children. So while the party is going on, Dolores, Margaret, Rachel have a conversation about Frank, and Rachel, of course, knows him. They have a past. He used to train her when they did the weight training. And I feel like she's trying to stir the pot a little bit because she tells Dolores that Frank talks to her about Dolores and how much he misses her. And it's like, girl, Dolores is with Polly. Chill on all that and chill on Frank. This is not his time to shine right now. Dolores has made it clear that Frank was not a good husband. They had their time already. Okay, but can we just talk about how awkward the exchange was with Melissa and her nieces? She made it awkward because she basically told them that her son was asleep and that's the reason why he didn't come. My thing is, you knew about this event. You could have prepped him well before he supposedly got tired, and somehow you magically just turn up so that you're the one that looks like a saint. I'm sorry. Melissa's playbook is public. It's so predictable at this point, and I'm glad that the girls see right through her. When I tell you I'm over Melissa Gorga, I'm over her. How do you make yet another thing about you again? So now you're crying because Teresa made a speech and said that everyone there was her chosen family. And Margaret wants to chime in and See, those were a poor choice of words to use when her brother isn't here. When he's the one that chose not to be here. Again, you guys want to dictate Teresa's actions, and it's so sad. You want to dictate how she talks, you want to dictate how she moves, how she thinks, who she's friends with. Just save it. It was a nice speech to people that were there. She doesn't have that much family. Why can't she say chosen family to the friends that she chose to be there? Everything is not about Joe. And I hate that Melissa's making this moment about herself again, running off to the bathroom to cry. Like, girl, I didn't see a tear. Not one. I like Danielle. She is really cool. And she's a little mouthy. I like that. Uh, the girls were having a conversation, and Melissa wanted to give Jackie a heads up and let her know that she told Danielle about her talking about her shorts, saying they look like they came out of the hamper. So right in the middle of their conversation, my girl Danielle, she inserts herself and she asks Jackie, how do I look? Do I look okay, or do I look like I got my clothes out of the hamper? I said, okay, new girl with the mouth. Miss Staten Island. I see you. And so, of course, people up north talk with their hands a lot. And when she was talking to Jackie, she started using her hands a lot. But I'm from the South, and I didn't see anything wrong with how she was speaking to Jackie. And Jackie's just like, can you get your hands out of my face? Y'all know Jackie a Karen for real. And she was like, can you get your hands out of my face? And then Danielle's like, my hands are not in your face. And she started doing her hands all up in her face. It was funny. It was just like, okay, if you think you can punk me, you can. Because I'm not that girl. So, of course, Jackie got upset and was like, if you can't say sorry, then F off. And it's just like, you want Danielle to apologize for you talking about what she has on her clothes? No. You apologize and you keep it moving. Let's talk about how the girls tried to gag Jen, Aiden, and they failed miserably. It started with Margaret being her jealous self approaching Jennifer, Aiden, and Jackie. They were having their own personal conversation. And Margaret was like, Jackie, she said that you were stuck up, a snob. And Jackie was like, well, I am. Like, that's not about to make me stop talking to her. Like, I'm glad that she didn't let that deteriorate from her and Jennifer Aiden trying to build a friendship, because you all know Margaret is really the mass manipulator. Just keep watching and you'll see what I mean. And so the girls tried to call Jennifer out about her talking mess about Margaret. She was just like, I didn't like how you called my friend trying to talk junk about me. And Jennifer Aiden was explaining to her, that's not all we talked about. It wasn't all about you. And one thing Jen will do, she will stand her ground. At one point, Jen was like, I didn't say it. Because she knows she said it. She knows she was talking about Margaret. And then little Rachel, trying to have a moment, she was like, you did the same thing with me to Dolores. And it's just like, girl, this is not your moment. But if you want to take it there, and Jen, we all know, took it there. And it got to the point where little Miss Rachel, she grabbed her husband and left. Her husband was like, you don't want to check her? She was like, no, I want to leave. See, I knew it. I think that Miss Rachel will be a one seasoner. I'm going to just go ahead and call it. But you all let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts on episode 4? And what are your predictions for episode 5? And can we all agree that Melissa needs a new storyline? All right, y'all. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. Until next time.